Starfield was at Opening Night Live 2023, and not even just the game, but Todd Howard himself was out on stage to promote Starfield and even answer a few questions about the game. Earlier today was Opening Night Live, a familiar showcase event that kicks off Gamescom each year, and it is hosted by Jeff Keighley. And things here kicked off in fantastic fashion, as Anand Zur, the composer on Starfield, actually played one of the songs from the game's original soundtrack on piano in front of the live audience and stream. This of course sounded great, and as far as I can tell, this is a totally new song that has not been released to the public previously. And as great as that was, as a starter to Opening Night Live, things only got better, as we saw an almost immediate transition after the fact into a brand new trailer for Starfield with the official live-action trailer. This is a really cool one. It showcases a variety of things we've seen in-game, whether that be during the direct or even some of the old concept art photos, and it has some really good and really copyrighted music playing in the background. We get this panning shot of New Atlantis, and just like some of the other alternative or derivative forms of media we've seen around Starfield, this is once again an incredibly well-represented version of New Atlantis. It's super close to what we have in game. Both in New Atlantis, we can see a couple of Constellation members have a brief interaction with a child, this likely being them passing of the torch, inspiring that child to go to the stars later on. But as we see Frontier actually take off, this is pretty epic, because this is almost identical to some shots we've seen in past gameplay. The visual artists here did a really great job on this recreation. And from there, we of course get some top tier space visuals of adventuring around the galaxy, a view of a few select planets, but also some space combat. But things eventually land on a very red planet with Vasco by our side, incredibly briefly. This was like just a couple of frames in the trailer, likely because the CGI in Vasco is not the best. And our Constellation member stumbles upon some gravity-defying sand, which eventually leads us to a cave with some more gravity-defying effects and another epic visual. And like this, right here, this scene just gets me hyped. It is definitely wallpaper worthy. And we can see some kind of alert on the Constellation member's watch that does appear to be the very same watch you will get if you purchase the Constellation edition of the game. And as that Constellation member reaches out in front of them, we get some astral visual effects appearing on screen, as it almost looks like that person is transported. All of this, of course, being a direct reflection of what we've seen already in past gameplay and very likely what we'll be doing in the game. In numerous trailers now, we've seen this artifact being lodged in a rock that's surrounded by gravity-defying smaller rocks. And in numerous Starfield trailers, we've seen these super intense astral visuals that likely mean something. And I mean, even the original reveal trailer from 2018 had some pretty intense visuals, so this is likely all connected. We know our story in Starfield will be tracking down these artifacts, and we seemingly find one of our own as a miner right at the start of the game. That was showcased quite extensively during the direct. But during this live action trailer, things are a bit different. We're not actually seeing a miner find this artifact, but instead a member of Constellation. So I wonder if what we're seeing is the first artifact that Constellation finds. We know from the recently released Starfield timeline that Constellation actually found a first artifact about 20 years before the events of the game, and presumably when we actually find an artifact. But for one reason or another, after finding the artifact, Constellation actually tucked it away into storage and seemed to largely forget about it. So I wonder if this live-action trailer showing that first artifact, we're seeing Constellation members find something mysterious and bizarre. And overall, I felt like this was a super fun trailer, and it had a lot of really well-represented in-game content. A lot of the trailer shots do align or match up pretty closely to other past gameplay shots we've seen. But then we also got to see and hear from Todd Howard himself, who is attending Gamescom for the very first time ever to promote Starfield. And on stage, Todd Howard does a brief question and answer with Jeff Keighley. Todd Howard going on to describe how Bethesda wanted to create a game where you could explore with complete freedom in the galaxy. And he really emphasized exploration as a core part of this game. Starfield is a dream game that Bethesda Game Studios wanted to play, so they made it. So like on one hand, that's definitely just marketing, but at the same time, it really seems like Bethesda is delivering on that front. This genuinely seems to be one of the most ambitious space games we have ever seen. But Todd Howard also goes on to describe what we could expect from Bethesda at Gamescom 2023. He describes the 300-seat theater Xbox constructed where they're going to be showing some gameplay of the start of the game. In the past, Bethesda has done this with Fallout 4 at a previous Gamescom, where somebody is literally in a room with a bunch of onlookers playing the start of Fallout 4 right in front of you. So you could expect something incredibly similar for Starfield, likely showcasing the initial parts of the game, and they even mentioned character creation, and hopefully instead of this just being being pre-recorded, there'll be somebody literally playing Starfield right there. Who knows, maybe it'll even be Todd Howard playing for some of the sessions. Todd Howard also shares some details about Starfield. In the game, you're going to start as a miner, but then you touch an artifact that shows you a bit into space-time. After finding the artifact, you're going to join Constellation. Todd Howard describes them as NASA meets Indiana Jones. This is the last group of space explorers in the galaxy, and we know a huge component of Starfield is going to be looking for various artifacts. And in fact, we don't really know anything about the main story beyond that. But Todd Howard still gives some color here. He describes Starfield as a story that has lots of turns and lots of surprises, many of which they haven't shared any info on yet, and they won't be spoiling those surprises at Gamescom. Jeff Keighley even brings up someone creating Todd Howard in Starfield and how we saw a picture of that. I think he's referring to this image, but Todd Howard says he doesn't think that's real. And I'm almost certain Jeff Keighley was tricked by this picture and then proceeded to ask Todd Howard on stage about it in front of a live audience and thousands of people watching, which is just kind of hilarious. Whoever made this has got to be feeling pretty good right now. To me, I think this new live action trailer looked absolutely epic. It didn't necessarily have a ton of new info, but it's just fun and exciting. The real marker that we are about to embark on a new Bethesda Game Studios experience. And thankfully, we did get some more concrete details here. We know what exactly you can expect from Starfield at Gamescom later this week. We know Starfield isn't going to actually be playable at Gamescom, but likely both media and fans will get a preview of the early part of the game. So at the very least, you could expect a ton of details on that in the coming days, assuming viewers are actually able to talk about what they saw. Gamescom officially begins tomorrow, so I wouldn't be shocked if as early as tomorrow morning we start to see some details from Starfield's intro. And honestly, this is an interesting one to me. A ton of the media members out there are currently playing Starfield for their reviews, so they can't really comment on things too in depth because, they know the answers. So I'm curious to see what kind of coverage this intro segment of Starfield gets. Although for better or for worse, that isn't all. In addition, Bethesda actually dropped this incredible looking wallpaper for Starfield. It comes in all kinds of different sizes for both mobile and PC, but also, unfortunately, as is to be somewhat expected, Starfield got one of its biggest leaks yet. Yesterday I was talking about how Starfield copies were being delivered to fans early, with many supposed to get their copies this week. And it seems like one user was actually able to get into the game early. And as such, the first major piece of leaked Starfield gameplay was shared online. This being a fairly extensive look at the early portions of the game and some of the first uncut and raw gameplay we've seen. Yeah, surprising enough, despite Starfield having a variety of leaks over the years, we've never had a gameplay leak before now. At least never a public one. This of course is being taken down all over, but just be warned, leaks are out there at this point, and it's likely only going to continue. On one hand, you have many of the media members playing the game and unable to keep their mouths shut, but on the flip side, it seems like people are now potentially getting the game even a bit early, and as such, leaking details in that way. And I mean, even during opening night live, there were some people donating to the live stream attempting to spread leaks online. So if you're avoiding spoilers, stay vigilant, but this should also give you a pretty good idea of what you could expect from Starfield at Gamescom. It really doesn't seem like there's going to be much beyond the intro of the game, and I don't even think we're going to be getting much gameplay around this. It'll likely just be fan impressions if we even get that. If you are looking for more Starfield news as you endure on your wait, check out this video where we go over some of the other very recent updates.